Okay, technique of the week for week one. I taught this last night, but I want to make sure that everyone is on the same page with this. We're starting with guard up, and we're doing the number one elbow, and we're using that phrase so that they know which number it is. The number one with the left is we step at the same time. We throw that across elbow. The hands are open, and we're stepping for distance. With the number one elbow with the right side, we step, then we twist. We step, then we twist. As we saw last night, there's people that start doing this stuff. Make sure that we're folding it back in when we're done with it, and that we're talking about how powerful it is because the elbow originates close to the core. So that's week one. Week two technique of the week is called sensory elbow from guard up. Sensory elbow is when you're sort of already in the fight or you're using it to gain distance and get closer to your partner to close the distance. So it's basically like you're answering the cell phone like a cover. The other hand comes up in front here, but you're spearing in at the same time. So you can imagine if somebody was throwing a right haymaker at me here, I'm looking to come inside the haymaker, hit them in the face, hit them in the shoulder with the point of the elbow, but that gets me into range to then get into my clinch, okay? So there are haymakers coming in, I see it coming, I cover the haymaker, but I'm also using this as like a battering ram. Coming in, I'm striking with that. That puts me into my clinch, and then we attack from there, okay? So that's called sensory elbow. It might be used at a time where you're sneak attack, it happens and you turn, and it's this, but it's an offensive movement, moving forward so that we can get into the clinch and hit them with the point of that elbow. That's sensory elbow, that's week two. Week three is similar to week two. This is the Amok face cage. So this is definitely not what we've done before. This is more of an offensive face cage, and it looks like what we did last week with a couple little changes. So this is the same. The left arm comes up and hooks behind the head, just like before. This hand comes over the top. We're grabbing our own wrist and we're pointing that elbow forward. So the idea here is that we have these pointy elbows coming out. So if straight punches are coming, they're kind of spiking on our elbows. We're covering our head, we're covering our chin, and we're getting inside this. And this is definitely more reactive than what we did last week. So last week was somebody's coming at us, we're spearing into it to enter. This is more like maybe sucker punches are coming, we're not sure what's happening, so we shell up for a moment until we can see what's available, and then we move forward. And that's what we're gonna add to this, okay? So after we explain the Amok face cage, we wanna talk about how to get out of here because we can't really fight from here. So we get this position, the top hand will come out with a hammer fist, the left hand will come down with a hammer fist, and then we throw the cross off of that, okay? So maybe we're getting beat up, we don't know what's coming. We go into the Amok face cage, explain that thoroughly, and then it's right hammer fist, left hammer fist, cross to get out of it, okay? So that's gonna be week three technique. We don't have a technique of the week because it's testing. Week five, we get back to it, and this is called the brachial stun. This is a technique that police officers use all the time. I think in USKMA it's level 3. But basically it's sort of a cross, sort of an overhand right. So it comes out, it goes out a little bit, it turns over, and you're striking the opponent like right across the jawline and into the neck. It's short and choppy, and it comes across this way. It's almost like an old school ridge hand, but not nearly as big. It comes out and it just comes over. It almost looks like a sloppy cross, but the idea is you're hitting with this edge right across the jaw and the neck, and this has it's called the brachial stun because it does flash knock people out. It's just very straight to the point. It's here and it wraps around. Okay, so that's the brachial stun. That's gonna be for week 5. Week 6, slashing Muay Thai elbows. Let's start with teaching them just from our regular stance, but we wanna be able to do this from the plum clinch. So we just start with our hands up, and we'll talk about swimming the elbow up and slashing down, keeping the hand in tight as if you were wearing suspenders. The other hand is open. We should be able to do this on both sides. Talk about the angle, how we might be coming between somebody's guard and slashing down. But just kind of getting that swimming motion, and so that the Lisa McDonalds of the world don't do this, right? So slashing down, but then as also part of this week, we want to be able to teach this from the clinch. So imagine we have the plum clinch on somebody, we're holding their head in place, the left hand stays, the right hand lets go to deliver the elbow, and then the right hand clinches, and the left hand comes down. So if you have a partner that you can demonstrate this on during your class, all the better. you may not, but just make sure that you explain it in a way where you have that clinch, pinching the elbows, downward elbow, come back, downward elbow, come back. All right, week 7 technique of the week. This will be the last one, hopefully, because next week is testing. This is an overhand right, okay? So maybe the best way to explain this is how it's maybe a bit of a combination of a cross and a hook coming together, but starting, from our stance, starting it like a cross, being real straight with it, and then at the end, turning it over to come around their guard, around their shoulder, and land on the jaw, okay? What we just don't want people doing is going like that stuff. So it starts real straight, they think it's a cross, and it whips over at the end. We're using the hip. And then the last point on this is that we should be moving the head down at the end so that our head comes offline, but it also generates more power through body movement. So it comes straight and coming offline and throwing that overhand right. That's week 7.